Welcome to Low to Lifted. Here, we rise in Christ, see who we truly are in Him, and lift the world, one heart and one home at a time.
Hello and welcome to Life Made Easy. Do you know who you are? Oh, I've been going through some iterations the past few podcasts and making adjustments as I go. I'm just thrilled to be alive, thrilled to be publishing daily. And that's part of my iterations as well. Yesterday, I had this idea. I'm like, I'm going to change my name back to Publish Peace Daily. And I did. And now I'm like, you know what? That's the principle behind the message, but that's not the message. The message is to lift people where they are, to lift them from low to lifted. So if you're in a low place, it's time to be lifted. If you're in a high place, it's time to turn around and lift others. And the idea is that we ought to be loving and serving one another. We ought to be engaged with discovering what our talents are, developing those talents, and then standing on higher ground. And when you do that, you turn around and help other people to do likewise. And like you, I've been through the ringer. And if you've come to this place in a space of that's left you wondering, for example, my third podcast in this series is essentially was about when you're on your deathbed, or someone that you loved is at their deathbed. It causes you to contemplate, like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? How did I get here? Where am I going when it's all done? Is it all about the laws of success and to achievement and getting what you want? Well, yeah, you can get what you want and you can follow the laws of success to get what you want. But is there more to this world than getting what you want? Like, I don't know, but I do know. Like, it's not about getting the thing, but it's about tapping into the source. And when you tap into the source, the things come as a byproduct. The things come as you live correct principles. It's in so much that when you turn your life over to God, He will give you all things, not just some things. He says, when you're faithful over these small things, woo, we give you more, greater things. C.S. Lewis, I love how he put it. He's like, this guy who had built a cottage, turned his life over to the Lord, and the Lord, wants to check out the cupboards, wants to check out the dark corners. When you do that, you turn your life over to the Lord. He comes in and He cleans the house. And we learn in I don't know if it's a parable analogy or whatever, but we learned, I mentioned this previously, but we learned that when you do that and you clean your house, there's more to life than just having a clean house. Like, there's way more to life than that. Yeah, you need to have a clean house, but when the evil spirit that was kicked out before you cleaned your house comes back and sees that it's in order, he's like, I have no power here anymore. So what's he do? He goes and gets 7 more spirits that are way worse than him, and they come back. And the state of the person that only has a clean house is worse than it was before he had a clean house. Let's unpack that a little bit. So imagine this: you have this house. You've been working. You found the Lord. You've turned your life over to Him. You've been baptized, and now you have a clean slate, and everything's hunky dory. It's wonderful. And you've cast out the evil spirits. But guess what happens? Trials come, tribulations come. That evil comes back with something 7 times worse. Why? Because to follow Christ and to be lifted, to walk on water, takes more than baptism. It takes more than making a covenant to God. I'm giving you all. It takes more than saying what Solomon said. I give 1,000 of my sacrifice, 1,000 of my lives to you, 1,000 of this to you. It takes more than that. Because even with all that, he still messed up. what it takes is a pure heart. And the way to get a pure heart is the same way you get pure silver. How do you know when silver is pure? When it's 100%. How do you know that? Well, you know that because the guy that's purging the silver will continue to heat it up until the dross melts away. Well, how do you know when you're not overheating it and when it's done? When you can see your reflection in the silver. You and I are children of the Most High. You and I are born in his image and meant to purge the dross and reflect his image. Not reflect, be his image, radiate his image. And the world says that it's an outward thing. So, and that's where the parable of, a wolf in sheep's clothing. The outward is important, but it's not the final say. The outward is important, but it's not the final say. However, when your life is pure from the inside, it radiates to the outside. If you are, here's an example from my life. So I got a picture at a family reunion, and I was just chilling with my brother-in-law, and it was one of those iPhone 3-second videos. And so I looked at him, I said, hey, let's do a picture. And I looked back, and then I took the picture, and I looked down to see where the pause button was, or the stop button or whatever. And when I did, I saw the picture, I was like, what? I was totally flabbergasted. At that time, I was the heaviest I've ever been, 5 pounds. Or excuse me, a whopping 288 pounds. I was almost 290. And I was blown away. So the reason why I bring that up is when I saw that picture, I'm like, man, I've got to do something. Because 10 months prior to that, I was probably 240, 235, 240. And I was hospitalized and I got put on some medicine and put a bunch of weight back on. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be sane, then I got to be on this medicine. And if I'm on this medicine, I gain weight. Therefore, I guess I'm just going to have to suck it up and be a heavy person. But when I saw that picture, I was like, no, I got to do something. So this was in July 2021. I got that picture and I'm like, for whatever reason, seeing that picture fueled me. And I literally, I had this huge double chin. I was awful. And I knew it was not an image of who I was created. So what did I do? I ended up getting a job. It was the coolest job I ever had, next to the one that I'm working now. And this job it was a sales job, and I really enjoyed it. And so I got a regular job, so I was working regular, like 96 hours, and I started eating regularly. I started watching what I ate, and I started exercising in the form of going for a walk once in a while, and to just watch what I ate. Because one of the side effects of the medicine I take is that it kills not kills, but turns off the receptors in your stomach to tell you you're full. So the only way I was full before, is that I ate until I couldn't eat anymore. And you do that 3 or 4 times a day. Guess what? You're going to gain 60 pounds in 9 months. Yeah. Been there, done that. So the point I'm trying to make is with that work ethic, if you will, that awareness that this isn't right, I trimmed down from 288 to 254 in 18 months. I was like, yeah, this is much better. This is much better. Because I was about where I was when I was first put on the medicine in 2000, when I was in my mid 20s. I went from 200 to 260. I was like, okay, this is probably where I am. But I still was hungry to change. So for 6 months, I was stuck 254. I trimmed down to 250 during the week, and then on the weekend, I'd say, hey kids, let's get a pizza. And when I had pizza, I used to eat, 5 pieces of pizza. Like I couldn't just have 1 or 2, gotta have 5. And I ballooned back up over the weekend, 254 again. 6 months, back and forth, back and forth. Then in March of 2023, I started a podcast called Jesus is the Mark. And I tried doing it on a daily basis. I did it for like 30 days and it transformed my life because I don't know, 2 weeks or so into it, I'm doing this. And when you're doing a podcast on Jesus being the mark, the focal point, the aim of our life, you start thinking about it more often for some reason. And guess what? When you make a covenant to come follow Jesus Christ, one of those part of that covenant is to remember him always. And when you remember him always, you're promised his spirit. And when you're promised his spirit, that means you can understand him and his ways. And that means you're on higher ground. And then you can turn and start serving other people and lift them to higher grounds. So I started doing this. I started feeling the spirit more. I started being more engaged more. And I still 254 though. Then one afternoon, early morning, or late morning, I should say, I woke up from a nap as probably 10:30 or so, just before we ate lunch. And the still small voice says to me as I'm waking up from my slumber, do you really want to trim down? I don't know if you guys know what the word verily means, but when the Lord uses verily, that means serious business. It's like, behold, it's like, hello, listen up. What's gonna follow these words is important. So for when I heard the still small voice say to me, do you really want to trim down? I said, yea, verily. And the Spirit then said to me, your master, your Lord and master is not a 254-pound salesman. Now, the emphasis wasn't if I'm a salesman or not. The emphasis was he's not a 254-pound salesman. And then my response in my mind was, yeah, you're right. He was a master craftsman. He worked with his hands. He probably had some guns. Like he was a strong man. I was like, yes, you're right. And that, according to James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, it's all about identity, right? You got to change your identity. If you want to stop smoking and someone says, hey, do you want a cigarette? You don't say, no, thanks, I'm trying to quit. No, you say, no, thanks, I'm not a smoker, because you've changed your identity. You're not a smoker anymore. Well, next level stuff here is, if you know you're a son of God and that's your identity and you're carrying some excess weight, click, 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 click. Was Jesus Christ an overweight man? Did he come home and eat Cheetos until 3 a.m, watching movies? Like, I can't pull that example from Rich Roll at his book, Ultra Runner, I think it's called. I think that's the name of his book. Super cool book. Like, he was a lawyer and he has an epiphany. It's 2 a.m. He just got Cheetos all over him. He's a lawyer, Stanford graduate, former swim team champion. And he's huffing and puffing going up the stairs to give his kids hugs and kisses goodnight, or just give him kiss goodnight or whatever. And he's like, man, if I keep like this, I'm not going to be able to see my kids to adulthood. And he made a change. He had an epiphany. So his epiphany was, I need a change for my children. That's awesome. I love it. Kudos. My epiphany was more like what James Allen's was, is if I'm here to make Jesus the mark in my life, if I'm here to become like him, to do greater works than him, like he commands those that believe in him in John 14:12, then, hello, it's time to do something about that. And it's, it's so funny, as a shuttle driver, I used to take people to and from ski resorts. And as a shuttle driver, I tell people that I had, a year or so ago, after I trimmed down, I tell people, yeah, I lost a lot of weight. And they're like, oh, cool, cool, cool. How'd you do it? I was like, well, actually, it was kind of like a miracle. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So what'd you do? You stop eating as much? You start exercising? I was like, yeah, I tried that a million times and it didn't work. It was a miracle. But they didn't want to hear about miracles. But I'm telling you the miracle. So I'm 254, and I'll finish the rest of the story here about the still small voice. In my mind, I said to myself, or I said to the Spirit, essentially, you're right. He was not a 254-pound salesman. He was a fit master craftsman. And then the Spirit said to me in a still small voice, Live what you know, and I'll fill in the gaps. I'll help you. Mm. And you know what I said? You got it. Yay, verily. I'm not exaggerating here. 254, May 13th, and 5 weeks later in July, beginning of July, I believe it was beginning of July, I was down to 228. And it was really cool. I I had this level of mastery that I'd never had before. And I would like to attribute that not only to the gift of the still small voice guiding me, not only to the gift of the still small voice speaking to me, not only to my Lord and my Savior and God for giving me the grace and power, respectively, but to give me this miraculous change was because my identity changed. Thou saw something I hadn't seen before. Yeah, at 18, I gave my life to the Lord because I knew He could make more out of my life than I could. And in my mind, I was thinking just dollars as an 18-year-old. That's what mattered to me as an 18-year-old. Working for a franchise would have made me a multimillionaire. And the guy that sold me that dream that I backed out of because I found the Lord, 30 years later, he got it. He owns several franchises and he's president of a Porsche Club. He's an amazing man, great man. He was super friendly. He knew correct principles and he lived them, had long-term vision and he lived it and started this franchise at 16. And 30 years later, it might have been 35 years later, he's living his dream. I'm so proud of him. Um, so I had this understanding of my identity shift that turning your life over to the Lord is not just a heart thing and it's not just a mind thing. It includes your body, your physique, turn your physique to Him too. No, that doesn't mean you need to, you know, not eat again and be a certain weight, but it means to be the best that you can be where you are. You need to be fit. You need to be not a couch potato. I've been there, done that. And it's so amazing. So when I lost that weight, I could, I was still walking regularly. But when I was down 24 pounds, I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually try a walk run. And instead of doing a 16 to 20-minute mile, I did 2 miles in 24 minutes. Blew my mind. And I said to my wife, who'd been asking me for years, I said, you know what? I think I'm now ready to accept your invitation to prepare for and run a Spartan. So I put together through inspiration and revelation this plan. That was in July. In November, for our 20th anniversary, we ran a Spartan together. And it was beautiful. And I walked away from it without any injuries. And it was super cool when you lose that extra 30 pounds, I end up being 30 pounds, and I've lost more since. But when you lose that extra 30 pounds, AKA 70 pounds, you're not carrying this excess weight with you all the time. So it was really cool. So I got down to the 228 and I was like, wow, not only can I run and walk at the same time, as I wasn't pulling any calves anymore. I wasn't carrying that excess weight. I could breathe better. I got off my CPAP machine. I got off inhalers for sports-induced asthma. I had more energy. I wasn't sleeping 10 to 12 hours a day anymore, and I still was alert. Like everything started falling into place, and I now had energy to exercise. And then when I exercised, I had more energy. So my wife and I hired a coach, one of our neighbors who's a coach, and she trained us every week, once a week, and gave us a regimen. And we started going to the gym 6 days a week. We transformed our lives. But it didn't start with my physical backwards. It started with my heart. I turned my heart over to the Lord and He transformed me. But He didn't just transform me. Transformation is wonderful. We're not here to just be transformed, though. We're here to be transmuted from lead to gold, from natural man to divine nature. And when you tap into your divine nature by turning your life over to the Lord, when you do that, that turns, that you have what Stephen Covey calls a paradigm shift. You get this turning in your heart and in your mind, and it grows and expands outward. It's not, I'm going to put on this image so I can make a lot of money and show you how I lost all this weight. Your intention is to make money. I'm like, how can I make money? By trimming down and showing people that I did it. How about this? My intention is to have the image of Christ in my reflection. My intention is to be of service to my fellow man. My intention is to be able to run and not be weary. My intention is to do more and give more and be more like my Savior Jesus Christ, who is the mark, the focal point. When that happens, you have not only the form of physique that's more in his image, but you have his power to be more and do more than you can on your own. Move from low to lifted so you can help others do likewise. Imagine, what would this world be like if we got lost in the service of one another? I love it. One author in Sterling W. Seal, he says, if we all lived the golden rule or the law of the boomerang he references, the world would be transformed in 30 days. What? Just live what you know to be true, and he'll fill in the gaps. God has happiness in store for you, but you got to turn your life to him, and you got to be obedient, and you got to live what you know. And guess what happens when you live what you know? Next level. More obedience, more. And you don't ever say, hey, I got it. I'm good. Because when you do, that which was given to you is taken away. You're amazing. Thank you for being here on the podcast, on the domain of low to lifted, and on the podcast Life Made Easy, because it is made easy when you take on the yoke of Christ. He suffered so that you don't have to anymore. Turn your life over to him and go to work and get lost in the service of others. Good day.
If this lifted you, share it with someone who needs a rising too. And join us at lowtolifted.com, where hearts rise, homes become heaven, and families lift the world.